Chapter 19. JR glared at his opponent standing across the meadow from him. She had her hands up to protect her face and stood on the balls of her feet, but her tail hung limp and relaxed, ready to offer her the balance she needed in this fight, just like he taught her. In the years since he had taken her in, Xena had grown into a tall, lanky teenager with no shape, but JR wasn't sure if it was because of her age or body type. He almost hoped it was her body type. Less curves meant less boys he'd have to chase away from her, and he didn't think curves would suit her anyway. She wore her hair in a messy ponytail and shared JR's disdain for frilly clothes and makeup and his love for sports and sparring, which is what they were doing now. In fact, the only reason he was out there in this meadow was because their sparring sessions had become too rowdy for his basement gym. So he had brought her out here to where he met clients on those days he didn't feel like traveling too far from home. It even had a small hut across the grass for those days when being outside was a nuisance. Catherine, on the other hand, had grown from a giggly round baby to a laughing round 8-year-old who loved sweets. She sat on the grass out of the way and held her digibook in her hands, possibly some teen fashion magazine or a medical journal. Her golden hair had been caught back in a neat braid, and she wore a pink tank top with a lacy yellow daisy print skirt. Funny how she grew up so girly when JR was the one raising her. Maybe it was Melody's influence. "Ready for your beat-down, old man?" Xena curled her hand into a fist. "Watch your mouth, kid." JR flexed his bicep. "I'm about to spank your little behind." "Fighting banter." Catherine thrust her nose into a book, even though it was only a holographic display in the text. "How droll." "Droll?" Xena dropped her hands to look at her sister. "Cat, you read too much." "And you don't read nearly enough." Catherine swiped the air to turn the page. "Pipe down and count us in, would you?" JR took to rocking on his toes. "Fine," Catherine said, hiding a smile. JR suspected she secretly liked watching the show. 3, 2, 1, go! Xena darted at JR before the words were fully out of Catherine's mouth. She sprinted across the grass in less than the time it took for JR to swallow. But he was ready for her. He sidestepped her and... Uh-oh. She launched herself into the air at the last moment and corrected her aim to deliver a roundhouse kick to his face. Man, she was quick. Quick, but no experience. JR whipped his head out of the way, caught her foot, and swung her aside. She crashed into the ground and rolled to a halt, landing on her stomach. Catherine burst into laughter. "What happened to teaching the old man a lesson?" JR grinned. "Have to try a little harder than that, kid." "Ow!" Xena pulled herself to her hands and feet. "That hurt." "Ah, stop whistling. I didn't toss you hard." JR beckoned to her. "Shake it off and let's go again." Xena pulled her knees to her chest and hissed in a breath. "She's really hurt, Mr. JR." Catherine hopped to her feet. JR's ears pricked. "You all right, kid?" "I'm fine." Xena groaned as she stood. "I can't go again, though." JR's tail flopped. He had hurt her. The last time Xena quit on a sparring session, it was because she was getting a fever. He put a hand on her head to check. Nope, normal. "What's wrong, kid? Tell me where it hurts." "I'm fine, really. I landed hard." "Kid." JR narrowed his eyes at her. Xena bit her bottom lip and her cheeks turned a little pink. It's that lately when I run around, my chest hurts." "Your chest?" "My chest." Xena gave him a look. "Oh." JR jerked his arm away from her as if she was contagious. "Yeah, well, maybe you should talk to Melody." "I did. She's taking me shopping this weekend." "Good." JR sighed. Glad he didn't have to take care of it. He shuddered at the thought of walking into that store. "Shopping?" Catherine's tail fluffed out in anger. "Shopping isn't going to fix this. If Xena's having chest pains, she could be having a heart attack." JR raised an eyebrow. "At 12? "It could be a genetic condition, or she could have angina or pericarditis. It's all here in the medical book I got from the library." Catherine held up the flat, square holodisc player she had in her hands. "We have to take her to the hospital." "Ugh." Xena rolled her eyes. "Are you sure you're only 8? "My medical knowledge could save your life one day." Catherine grabbed her purse. "I know. I'll run a scan on her so I can tell the doctors what's wrong." She pulled out a purple and yellow scanner. She had gotten it for her birthday last year and wouldn't go anywhere without it. "Relax, Cat." JR patted her head. "She doesn't have heart problems. She has puberty." "But puberty doesn't cause chest pains unless..." Catherine's ears pricked. "Oh." "Yep. It's the beginning of the end for all of us." JR nodded gravely while winking at Catherine. She'll be a teenager soon, which means she'll become all moody and irritable. She's moody and irritable already. Catherine turned her nose up. What's going to change? Shut up, you two. Xena's face surged red. Stop talking about me like I'm not here. Relax, kid. Sheesh. JR swung around to face Xena with a smile on his face. You're too easy to rile. He trailed off. Xena's hair rose, one strand at a time. He burst into laughter. Kid, what's up with your hair? Huh? Xena patted her ponytail. What's wrong? Catherine held her hand over her mouth as she giggled. It's like you're touching a Van de Graaff generator. One of Xena's ears angled down. A what? A static electricity generator. JR touched the ends of her hair with a finger. Your hair is all on end. Oh! Xena jerked her head away from him. It's my fur. It's been generating a lot of static electricity lately. Maybe it's the fabric softener you use. They changed the formula recently. Catherine tried to get an angle on Xena to scan her. Stop scanning me, Cat! Xena hid behind JR. You're too annoying with that thing. I'm going to break it when you go to sleep tonight. Catherine held it close to her. You do, and I'll scratch your eyes out. All right, enough. JR dug into his bag. Since you're out of commission, kid, I got something I want to test on you. What is it? Xena said. Xena, with Catherine behind her, crowded around JR. He pulled out a small box. Bioelectric communicators. Xena put her hand on her hips. Are you experimenting on me again, Mr. JR? I might have something this time. JR handed her a small earpiece. Doesn't have a large range, though, but you have to start somewhere. Xena stuck the earpiece in her ear. Your friend is still working on this? It's been years, since I was a kid. JR stopped himself for reminding her she was still a kid. Research takes time. You're shoving it in kind of far, ain't you? I can barely see it in your ears. I have to, or it will fall out, Xena said. My ears are bigger than yours. Do I get one? Catherine bounced up and down on her toes. I only got the one, but you can try it after me. JR put his earpiece on. Okay, all you have to do is think about transmitting a message to me. Xena closed her eyes. Can you hear me, Mr. JR? Her voice rang in JR's brain. No way. JR swung around to face Catherine. Did you hear it? No, what? Catherine said. I heard her, JR said, in my head. It worked? Xena hopped up and down. Send me a message. JR closed his eyes. Can you hear me, he thought. But Xena said nothing. She didn't even flinch. You didn't hear me, did you? No, Xena said. Blast! JR stomped his foot. Why are you the only one who could ever get these things to work? Xena rubbed the fur on her arm, but said nothing. Can I try? Catherine bounced on her toes. Sure. JR pulled the earpiece out of his ear. Catherine stuck it in hers and stared at Xena. She stared and squeezed her eyes shut and groaned with the effort. I heard her! Xena clapped her hands. She said, come on, work. Yeah, but I think I said it out loud, Catherine said. I didn't hear you. JR stroked his chin. Unless... Here, let me see it again, Cat. Catherine handed it to him. After inserting the earpiece into his ear, he covered his mouth with his hands and said, Kid, hop in 1 foot, in the tiniest whisper he could mutter. Why? Xena said. JR tickled his whiskers. So you heard me. We have the same problem as before. The sensors aren't strong enough to pick up the bioelectricity. Whispering might give it the boost it needs, but why can you use it? Maybe I'm special? Xena shrugged and forced a laugh. Weird. Catherine stood with her scanner pointing at Xena. The communicator is giving off this weird signal, even when she's not using it. Stop scanning me, Cat. Xena hid behind JR. You're so weird. I am not. Catherine stomped her foot. Mr. JR, tell her to stop calling me weird. Even if he makes me stop, it doesn't change the truth. Xena stuck out her tongue at her sister. Mr. JR! Catherine wailed in a high, whiny voice, normally preceding tears. That voice grated at JR. Enough, you two, JR trailed off as his ear twitched. He was picking up something, the rumbling of an engine coming up over the hill separating them from the road. But who had come all the way out here? What's that? Xena's ear swiveled in the direction of the rumble. Sounds like a speeder. I'll find out. Catherine held up her scanner to the hill. Let's see. Female, genus, canis. Probably Melody. JR threw his towel around his shoulders. On a speeder? Xena pointed out. Oh! Catherine's ears stood up. Species lupus. Subspecies lupus. It's a wolf. But we don't know any female wolves, Xena said. JR furrowed his brows. They didn't, but he did. Several, actually, but none who would want to visit him out here, if they knew where he was. None except, oh no. Stay, JR said to the girls before he trotted over the hill. A brown wolf, dressed in a red dress that showed more cleavage and fabric, had draped herself over his speeder. JR shook his shoulders loose and ambled over. She fixed her violet eyes on him as he approached and smiled in a way that exposed all her fangs. "Hello, JR, she said in a voice as smooth and luxurious as a finely distilled whiskey. "Long time no see."